Walking through the house, it was clear that there was a struggle.
Like she was running for her life. Running.
Who on earth would want to do this to your mom?
The stunning court case that just wrapped up.
She was in the shower stall in the master bathroom. There was water running over her body when the police found her.
He walked right up to Sandy and said, "Sir, your wife is dead."
And he screamed, like screamed.
Who would want to murder such a wonderful person?
The most violent I ever got was I'd grab her and just say, you know, you gotta snap out of it.
When you first heard that Leslie Prior had been murdered in her home, what went through your mind?
Who and why?
Whose DNA is this, and why is it in the house? Why is it under her fingernails? Who is this person?
You gotta do the right thing, man. You got to.
I think I am.
The only thing I thought of was, did they have an affair? And then my mom tried to cut it off and he murdered her.
The unknown DNA under her fingernails and the blood on the scene, you can't ignore that. And that really was the crux of the case.
What?
Was that your aha moment?
Chevy Chase, Maryland. It's a really nice, upscale, quiet neighborhood.
It is a family community, well-manicured lawns. It's a beautiful community.
It really made no sense that there would be a crime like this in that area.
The idea that that bubble could be punctured with something so brutal inside of somebody's house shocked people.
The body of Leslie Prior was discovered inside her home on Drummond Avenue.
There were signs of a struggle, but no forced entry.
This woman was strangled and she was beaten.
People were stunned. They were afraid by what had happened to their neighbor.
If I were to describe this case in 3 words, I would call it brutal, intimate, and cruel.
Police are asking residents of this community to be on the alert to report anything suspicious that might lead to an arrest.
I knew someone knew something. So I just never gave up.
Who in the world would want to kill Leslie? She didn't deserve that.
It was a beautiful Wednesday morning in May. Leslie Prior should have left her home and walked down this quiet street in Chevy Chase, Maryland to catch the bus and go to work. But on this day, for some reason, Leslie never showed up.
I'm Brett Reedy, and I was operations manager at Specialties, and Leslie Prior was one of my employees. Leslie was supposed to be at work at 10. When she didn't show up at 10:15, I just assumed she had a doctor's appointment or something held her up in the bus or something like that. Then it was about 10:40, 10:45.
He said, "Darn it, you know, where the hell is Leslie?" Finally, he called her husband.
I said, "Sandy, Leslie's not here. Did she have a doctor's appointment?" And he goes, "No." And very quickly, and he goes, "That's not good. Now something's really wrong." And he was very, very concerned. I said, "Okay, look, she's only 1.5 miles down the road. Why don't I just drive down there? I'll meet you there."
So you were born and raised in this area. You grew up here.
Mm-hmm. But I had about probably 6 friends that lived on this street from elementary school. When I said to Sandy, you know, I'm going to go over there, the reason why I went over there was I'm so familiar with the area.
You're thinking, Sandy's on his way. What else is going through your mind?
Something's wrong. She must have been in an accident. Somewhere is an accident. She fell, a bus, a car, something has happened.
Leslie Prior's husband, Carl, who went by Sandy, pulls up to the home not long after Brett arrived. As soon as the 2 men step inside the front door, there are signs something's very wrong.
There was dried blood in the foyer. There was a knocked over table. There was a moved rug. And her husband started calling out for Leslie and got nothing back.
I looked to my right, and there's a significant amount of blood. Sandy started walking around, and he went upstairs. And when he went upstairs, I noticed on the wall was an area that had been rubbed out. looked like someone had cleaned it or tried to clean it. I noticed something move down the hall. That door was slowly opening. I was like, oh no, it was the dog.
At that moment, the Preer's family dog, a black lab named Boomer, comes up from the basement.
I said to Sandy, look, you might want to check the basement. Sandy comes back up from the basement and says she's not there. We went into the kitchen. The back door was ajar a little bit. It wasn't fully closed. I started pointing out to him, Sandy, look at this. Look at this on the wall. Look at this blood all over the place. And he goes, she must have fallen. My reaction probably was, that's a hell of a fall. So I decided to call 911.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm at Drummond, Chevy Chase. I work for a company, and we didn't have a call from an employee. We just walked in the door, our husband and I, and there's blood in the foyer, and it looks like something possibly happened.
You're not in the house anymore, are you?
We're in the house right now. The husband's looking around.
You're with the husband?
I'm with the husband, yes.
When was the last time?
The last time the husband saw her was 7:45 this morning.
Did she have a car or anything?
No, she was going to walk to the bus.
Is there a lot of blood?
But it looks like there's possibly a struggle, a couple things knocked down.
Can I ask you guys to step out of the house?
Sure.
Their house was in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
You might describe it as the Beverly Hills of Washington, D.C. It is a wealthy area, restaurants, shops, big homes, some very prominent country clubs in the area.
The house is located on a cul-de-sac, so not a lot of traffic. Just a really nice, calm, quiet neighborhood.
It's kind of tucked away. It's like a little haven. It's a place where you would want to raise your family.
How long have you lived here?
40 years.
40 years. The same house on the same block?
Yes.
How did you first meet the Preers?
It was Leslie I first met.
What was your impression of Leslie?
She was really pretty. And her prettiness was also her personality. She was lovely in every way.
Leslie's husband went by Sandy.
He was very thoughtful and very kind. I really liked him.
And they only had one child?
One child, Lauren.
How was life growing up in Maryland with your mom and dad?
They were the best of the best. We had dinner together every night. My dad always cooked breakfast on Saturday, and my mom and I would plant tulips in the front of the house.
Lauren and I met in high school and became inseparable. Her parents were amazing. They were just super sweet, very welcoming, very open.
Who's in this photo?
Well, that's me.
No.
I know. So we're talking, and this must have been 1977 when I was born. So we were a happy family, the three of us.
Lauren's father could be described as like the life of the party. Very, very involved in Lauren's life, and they had a really great relationship. He was a really great guy. Lauren's mom was one of a kind. She was just so warm and so sweet. She was gorgeous. I mean, she just had these beautiful eyes. She was like a second mother to me, really. And she was just very caring and loving. And Lauren was definitely the apple of her eye.
On May 2nd in 2001, Lauren Preer is 23 years old, living in her own apartment not far from her parents' home.
Walk us through what happened that morning.
My mom and I talked on the phone every single day, every morning. That was our routine. I called my mom in her office, and her friend Gail was like, oh, she's not in yet, but I was told to tell you that if you called to call your father. And then I knew something was weird.
With signs of a violent struggle and police on the way, the question now is, where is Leslie Preer?
They pulled their guns.
And he screamed, like screamed. It was horrifying. It's terrifying. It's haunting.
Okay, so
So we got speed and
Interview with Brett
Reedy. All right, so I'm going to play this for you, and then we'll talk after.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm at Drummond, Chevy Chase. It looks like there's possibly a struggle, a couple things knocked down.
Wow. I'm shaken. My voice is definitely, I'm shaken. That call is haunting.
After Leslie Preer's boss, Brett Reedy, calls 911 on the morning she failed to show for work, he and Leslie's husband, Sandy, do as they were instructed and wait outside for police to arrive.
5-10 minutes went by, and when they showed up, Sandy, he kind of greeted them, and they pulled their guns. And Sandy goes, "Whoa, you guys mean business?" Like, kind of in a joking way. You know, I thought it was a little odd. I think my gut was somebody hurt somebody and tried to clean it up. Sandy's reaction was she must have fallen down. Sandy was somewhat, I believe, in denial of what was probably in front of him.
Brett was of the opinion that something bad had happened and that it wasn't just an accident. If Leslie's hurt and she's going to the hospital, why would it be cleaned up already?
I asked him directly, I said, "Sandy, you were upstairs awfully quick. Did you check everywhere?" And as soon as I said that, he puts his hand to his head and he goes, "Oh, I forgot to check the bathroom."
That's when they ultimately found Leslie. She was in the shower stall in the master bathroom. There was water running over her body when the police found her.
The police came back out, and the policeman was wearing gloves, and he was taking them off, and I knew right then. And he walked right up to Sandy and said, "Sir, your wife is dead."
I remember arriving at that scene at some point later on in that day. It was still a crime scene. Police were still there.
At 11:45 a.m., police found Mrs. Preer dead upstairs. There were signs of a struggle, but no forced entry. In addition, police report no previous problems in this quiet community.
This was an unusual place to be responding to a homicide. This happened in a residential community of very nice homes. It really made no sense that there would be a crime like this in that area.
Leslie and Sandy Preer's daughter, Lauren, only knows that her father wants to speak with her. She has no idea what's happened to her mother.
At this point, it's just Sandy and Leslie residing in the house, right?
Yes, Lauren lived in an apartment in Silver Spring, which is just a few miles away.
I looked out the window and I saw a police car pull up. And I saw my dad and a police officer get out of the car. And I said, "Oh God, what the hell's happening?" My dad is like he was just talking, but everything was in slow motion. He's like, "Lauren, your mom's been in an accident. I think we're seeing like a bus accident or she got in a car." Like, you know, I wasn't thinking the work like that. And then he goes, "She's no longer with us anymore." I was like, "What?" And so I ran into my bedroom and I screamed, like screamed. Like what you hear on like the horror movies, I get deep down into your stomach scream. And I said, "I don't understand."
It shook the office. I had to make that phone call.
Brett calls the office. He said, "You're not going to believe this, Linda, but Leslie's dead." And he couldn't tell me anymore because he didn't know anymore. I saw a number of police cars. I saw an ambulance. I was just shocked. Who would want to murder such a wonderful person?
Investigators begin canvassing the neighborhood, searching for answers, and they're looking to see if any similar crimes had occurred in the area.
They looked at
at any other burglaries in the area, any other assaults that happened, and there wasn't any clear indicator that any other crimes were related.
Nothing like this had ever happened in that area, a murder like this.
Not a murder like this. There were a couple of assaults on women throughout the county that a lot of people did think were related, but the police department did their due diligence and compared all the cases, and they determined no, they're not related. At the time, a lot of women were very fearful of what was going on, that there was a killer out there that in their quiet neighborhood had come into this house and killed a woman.
And as detectives start digging into the case, a crucial detail comes into question.
It was hard to pinpoint Leslie's actual time of death. She may have been dead for longer than just the hour or two that we believe she was there.
There was a theory that Leslie could have been killed the night before.
Yes.
So investigators bring Leslie's husband in for questioning. They want to know exactly what the couple had been up to the night before.
Let's just be a man and tell us what happened.
I told you exactly what happened.
But you haven't told us the truth.
It was Wednesday morning, about 10 a.m., when Leslie Jennings-Prier's colleagues became concerned she hadn't come to work. At 11:45 a.m., police found Mrs. Prier dead upstairs.
The autopsy has been completed. The cause of death is blunt force trauma.
Beyond that, police are being tight-lipped about what they know. Reporting from Chevy Chase, I'm Brad Bell, ABC 7 News.
Brad Bell, take one.
It was obvious that a struggle had taken place on the first floor. Leslie Prier was choked, and the belief was that her head was slammed into the floor of the foyer of her home.
Was there a question about the time of death and why?
When Leslie's body was put in that shower, the heat, the humidity, and the hot water over her body can change the rates of decomposition. So none of that was ever able to be pinpointed to a direct time of death.
It's literally a horror story. We went back and there was still luminol all over the hallway, blood in the kitchen, all the way up the stairs, through the bedroom. And I stopped at their bed. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go in the bathroom. I couldn't do it.
Walking through the house, it was clear that there was a struggle.
Like she was running for her life.
Running. Who on earth would want to do this to your mom?
I couldn't think of one person.
The neighborhood canvas was really crucial. A lot of the neighbors were pretty observant. One neighbor mentioned that he woke up in the middle of the night and he saw that there were lights all on in the Prier household, and the shades were drawn, but he could tell that all the lights were on, and he thought that was very strange.
Then another neighbor reported to police that something unusual happened that morning when Leslie's husband, Sandy, left for work. He was standing in his doorway, appearing to say goodbye to someone in the house, but then he also made a point to greet that neighbor, something she said he never did. She told detectives it was almost like he wanted her to notice him leave that morning.
You begin to think, does that play into someone trying to cover up, develop a timeline, and things like that? If you're a woman, more than 50% of the time, the person who's responsible for taking your life is your intimate partner. So it's a logical place for any investigator to begin.
Okay, today is May 4th, 2001, and we're talking with Carl Prier.
Leslie's husband is interviewed by police just 2 days after her murder because they're not positive when Leslie was killed. They want to nail down what Sandy was doing the night before Leslie was found dead.
Tuesday, it must have been a regular day. Went to work and got off. I was taking some computer stuff to the dump. Got there before 8 o'clock, took everything off, then left, and I think I went to a couple stores.
After the stop at the dump, Sandy Prier says he went to 3 different stores before finding the battery charger he was looking for. He didn't get home until about 9 p.m. Tuesday night.
All of that was just a little bit suspicious. It seemed like he was trying to create an alibi for himself.
I don't recall anything out of the norm on Tuesday.
Okay. And when you arrived home, you all didn't have supper together after 9?
No, I went right to bed. She stayed up.
Do you have any idea when she came to bed?
Nope. I could guess, but I don't know for a fact.
Okay. You indicated that sometime during the night you recall her being in bed.
Then, Sandy says something that catches the detective's attention. He admits that his marriage had been under tremendous strain. Both he and Leslie were feeling pressure at work. They were struggling to keep up with their bills, and Sandy says that Leslie was drinking.
She pretty much just had a glass of wine as soon as she got in.
Just one?
No.
How many?
Is this important?
Absolutely.
She would have a lot. She would have a lot, and in all honesty, it's one of the reasons why I kind of come home late, because I just really, it was getting hard to deal with. Leslie was an absolute love, beauty, when she didn't drink.
Were these a source of arguments between you
sure.
two?
Sure. Definitely.
At that point, they started to realize more details are coming out and it's conflicting with how he originally presented things.
Since we're on the subject, how would she act?
The sign was always the personality. You could tell immediately.
Happy, argumentative?
Not happy. Just chill out, you know, every little, mountain out of a molehill on everything.
Just keep
Just bam, 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 just keep coming at you, just keep coming at you. And it wasn't fun.
Sandy tells detectives there was one time when an argument escalated.
The most violent I ever got was I'd grab her and just say, you gotta snap out of it.
Like grabbing her by her shoulders?
Her shoulders, but I did that one time and it, really, and she, hit the wall. I'm nothing, smashing or anything. Hit the wall and she's burst in tears and I'm thinking, God, what am I doing? So I pretty much controlled myself to where I was not going to go there.
Did either of you ever discuss divorce or separation?
We never seriously discussed it because we loved each other dearly. There were times where I'd say, screw you, I'm divorcing you. To me, that's not a discussion. It's not when we sit down like this and talk about seriously getting a divorce.
After almost 2 hours of questioning, the interview wraps up. But it's clear Sandy Prieur has done little to ease the detective's suspicions or eliminate himself as a suspect.
Well, I assume you've been totally candid with us about this, and you're not holding anything back,
no,
holding any information.
Leslie and I had our arguments, and we had some pretty nasty ones at times. But there's nothing that I am consciously thinking now that I'm holding back.
Holding back or not, detectives are determined to get more out of Sandy Prieur, and they strap him to a lie detector.
The police think that he killed his wife.
Then, 2 months into the investigation, there's some surprising news. Could there be a new suspect emerging?
Detectives look at a lot of theories. They interviewed a lot of people. They looked at all of the relationships. Whoever this person was, they had never been arrested for anything. Who is this person? What would make someone want to kill Leslie? Detectives did go to follow up with Sandy, and it was ruled death by homicide. His first reaction was, okay, I know where this is going, because usually when there's a death of a married woman, it's the husband is the suspect. He volunteered to take a polygraph test.
Sandy told us he failed the lie detector test. He was very open about it. I thought, well, I wouldn't be.
Is that common for someone who is innocent to fail a polygraph test?
It happens, but I wouldn't say it's common. Polygraphs are tricky. They're not admissible in court.
It's not just police who found Sandy suspicious. There were people who knew the Preers that were asking, could Leslie's husband have killed her? When you first heard that Leslie Preer had been murdered in her home, what went through your mind?
Why? Who and why? And it all, unfortunately, started coming back to Sandy.
What did the neighbors make of hearing that Sandy had been interviewed? Sandy was considered a suspect.
I was really shocked because at no time did I ever think he was guilty. At no time. But I do know that a number of neighbors felt that he was guilty.
I talked to the police quite often for the next couple weeks.
I'm with Mr. Brett Reedy, reference a death investigation on Drummond Avenue.
They thought he did it. And one of the reasons was that the coroner believed this happened in the early hours, but they couldn't really determine it because it was not an exact science.
On May 24th, just over 3 weeks after his wife's death, Sandy Preer meets with investigators again.
How you doing?
All right, how about yourself?
Not bad, not bad.
Good.
This time, the conversation takes a different turn.
Answer machine at home. Have you erased that or any of the stuff that was on there for the past 2 weeks? Is it still there?
You guys, I don't mean to show any disrespect, but I've been cooperating with you since day one, and I think I've answered enough questions.
I don't understand.
My attorney said not to answer any more questions. And again, I don't mean to show any disrespect to you guys at all.
Sandy volunteered to give them whatever they needed. They took his watch to see if there was any blood traces in it. They took his glasses. They took pictures of his hands and his face and tried to see if there were any scratches or anything on his body. And he was totally cooperative with all of that stuff in the beginning. And it got to a point where they had kept interrogating him.
You gotta do the right thing, man. You got to.
I think I am. In fact, I know I am. And I'll just tell you one thing, you've got the wrong guy. I told you everything exactly how it happened. And I don't have anything else to say.
We can prove that you haven't told us the truth, Sandy. We have physical evidence that shows Leslie was dead before 7 o'clock in the morning. And that don't lie. People lie.
Sir, I don't have anything else to say.
That made the detectives even more suspicious of him.
But 2 months later, test results on forensic evidence collected at the scene reveal a clue left behind that doesn't fit with the theory that Sandy Preer killed his wife, Leslie.
At the crime scene, there was DNA found in blood and under Leslie's fingernails, which was a sign that she tried to fight off her attacker. That DNA was not a match to Leslie Preer's husband.
Whoever this person that left blood and their DNA on the scene was, they had never been arrested for anything that would have put them in the system.
The police said, we would like to take swabs of all the males in the office to eliminate you all. All right, well, my first thought was they probably want to eliminate me, only because I was there. And I said, fine.
At that point, they were eliminated as suspects. So whose DNA is this and why is it in the house? Why is it under her fingernails? Who is this person?
A little over a year after her mother's murder, Lauren Preer meets with detectives for an update on the case. What they tell her isn't easy for her to hear.
Let's see. Well, I know this has got to be rough on you. And it's frustrating for us because my gut feeling is that your dad had something like this. I've just been a cop too many years. I've worked too many cases. It is so bizarre to think that this could be someone else.
Detectives spend the next 2 hours telling Lauren Preer that they believe her father killed her mother. and how they think it unfolded.
My theory on this, as it were, something happened after he got home that night. They had some sort of a real argument. He was tensed out, stressed out, had a hell of a long day, and it got out of control. And what happened, happened. I think your dad just lost it.
How is it possible? First thing, you said that you found some evidence of another person being there. But that's like, to me, that's like the most bizarre thing.
I mean, the only thing that I can think of is someone else was there when Sandy arrived home late at night. There was some interaction between Sandy and that person, and then that person fled.
If my mom was having an affair, he's not the kind of person that, like, he wasn't like a possessive kind of guy at all. I mean, he would have been fine, but he wouldn't have, like, gone berserk. I can tell you that much. I can't imagine my father, like, I just can't imagine him, like, actually, like, murdering her and staring at her face, like, while she died in his hands. That just totally seems impossible to me.
I knew my dad loved my mom so much. I mean, I had my moment where I questioned, could he really go that far? I'm like, no. My dad loved my mom, adored her. There's no way in hell that my dad looked my mom in the eyes and strangled her. That's impossible.
If Sandy Prieur didn't kill his wife, then who did? Detectives need a new strategy, and that unknown blood found at the scene just might give them one.
I knew she was flattered by him. The only thing I thought of was, did they have an affair? I had this, like, perfect world before this all happened. Perfect. I mean, everything was great. I became a different person and my world changed completely.
In the aftermath of her mother's murder, Lauren Prieur is grappling not just with her immense loss, but also the lack of answers as time goes on, with the identity of the killer remaining a mystery.
I'm sure those were very difficult years for you without your mom, without your best friend.
It was almost impossible. But I said, Lauren, someday, somehow, this is going to be resolved.
There weren't any new leads or information coming in. 2010, another group of cold case detectives picked up on it, and they still focused on Sandy quite a bit.
So he was the strongest suspect despite his DNA not being found at the scene.
Yeah, I think that they were trying to find, is there a reason where he could have hired someone to kill her?
Lauren Prieur had her own suspicions about a neighbor living in the area. She said he'd made comments about her mother Leslie's good looks and even invited Leslie to walk their dogs together in the neighborhood.
I knew that she was flattered by him. He was very handsome. The only thing I could thought of was, did they have an affair? And then my mom tried to cut it off and he murdered her.
You thought it was a neighbor and he had gotten away with it?
Yes, 100%.
She mentioned him numerous times, and in 2010, detectives did speak to that individual and got his DNA, and he was also eliminated.
They swabbed him, and it was negative.
That had to drive you nuts, going right back to zero and not having anyone.
I thought I was going to die without knowing. I really, truly thought that.
In 2017, Lauren's father, Sandy, passes away after an illness, dying under a cloud of suspicion that never fully cleared.
My mom's family believed he killed her. Not all of them. Some of my uncles and some of my cousins were like, there's no way. And so they were out of touch with him. I mean, I think my dad died of a broken heart.
The case remains cold in the years that follow.
It makes you paranoid in a way to think that there's somebody that could commit this brutal crime and then just be walking free. And the decades just went on, and then you start to kind of wonder, this is never going to be solved.
It bothered us a lot. I mean, every time we would get together, we would talk about it.
For many years after this happened, when we got together around the proverbial water cooler, someone would always come up with one other revelation or one other, oh, maybe this happened, and we just couldn't put it together.
I would check with my sources in the police department periodically. I would say, hey, what was up with that Drummond case? And they never had anything new to tell me. They said it remained a mystery.
Finally, one day on my phone, Tara called.
In 2022, Detective Tara Augustin joins Allison DuPoy in the Montgomery County Police Cold Case Unit, where every box on these shelves represents an unsolved mystery.
Ever since I joined the police department, I think my career goal was to get into the cold case unit because these are all major crimes, and I like the challenge of trying to look at everything with fresh eyes and not take the same viewpoints that the previous investigators had. And when it's successful, it's a huge satisfaction that you're able to do something for the families and give closure.
And her first assignment, the Leslie Preer case.
It was one of many boxes that are sitting on our shelves. And when Tara joined our unit, she just picked right up on it.
I just dug right in, and I dragged her along for the ride.
And she was like, we're calling about your mom, Leslie Preer. And I said, what?
So in 2022, you reach out to Lauren and you tell her, we're on this.
It was very, very emotional for Lauren. She was just so grateful that somebody was looking at this and thinking about her mom again.
Were you concerned at all that you were raising her hopes?
It's always a concern. You want to temper expectations.
We have some ideas of things that we can do now that had never been done before, but it's a very long process, so we had to really urge her to be patient with us.
She's like, Lauren, this is going to take a long time. I said, I understand. No problem. I said, take your time.
What was your initial thought when you looked through the case in 2022?
The main thing was the unknown DNA under her fingernails and the blood on the scene. You can't ignore that, and that really was the crux of the case. We had been using the forensic genetic genealogy to some success at that point, and that was, I think, probably the biggest technological advance in the DNA that we've had in a while.
In forensic genetic genealogy, DNA from the crime scene is compared to DNA that has been entered into public databases, a powerful way to find relatives, close or distant, of the unknown suspect. So DNA from Leslie Preer's fingernails is sent to a private lab. And this genealogy technique didn't exist in 2001.
No.
It wasn't around.
Not even in 2010.
Or do you both have training in genetic genealogy?
We've taken courses for training for that, but we're both kind of beginners at it.
So you've submitted this DNA to see where it matches. What results are you now looking at?
We had some pretty low matches that we were working with at first. Because they were US-based, there was a lot of public information on the family tree, so there were some very high matches that were coming back to outside of the country.
Low matches have less shared DNA with the suspect, making it more difficult to trace back the family line to identify them.
It had been about a year and a half of working on these low matches, and I just wanted to explore these higher matches.
When the detectives finally delve into the overseas matches, they find a person in, of all places, Romania, who shares enough DNA to be a promising lead, suggesting their suspect could be an American with Romanian ancestry.
So this high match, and that's an awesome shared match.
What did you think? This is it?
That was really where we needed to go. This was the one that was overseas. So it was like another level of a challenge, but it was really worth trying because otherwise we were just spinning our wheels and we weren't getting any closer.
So you would make a family tree basically showing any possibility of aunts and uncles, first cousins.
Was that your aha moment
I remember I said, Allie, come over here and look at this. I think I really have a break. Like, oh, this is serious.
What she finds? A name closer to home than Lauren could have ever expected.
Hands up!
I said, are you sure? And she said, yes, it's him. He almost got away with it.
Honey, your DNA was in the crime scene.
This is one of the crimes, homicides, murders that I never forgot about.
It was horrifying. It's terrifying. It's haunting.
Only 2 people know what happened that day, he and Leslie can't speak for herself.
Based on all of this evidence, what do you think happened to Leslie that morning when she was killed?
That DNA could have matched to somebody else in that family.
She didn't have any specific evidence to point to he's the killer, but she just got a weird feeling about him.
I ended up leaving that house that night. I did not stay there because I was afraid of him.
She was afraid of something. She thought he might go after her.
Murdered someone?
I want to know what snapped in you.
Hands up! Hands up!
I almost fainted.
What goes through your mind?
I was in shock. I'm still in shock. This is a family photo from my 15th birthday. There's my beautiful mother.
For Lauren Prieur, sifting through memories of life before her mother's murder is bittersweet.
It's one of the last trips I went on with my mom.
A family destroyed. Her father, once a suspect, dying without knowing who killed Leslie Prieur inside their Maryland home on Drummond Avenue.
When you see photos like these, what memories come rushing back?
They were the best parents, but I miss them so much. We were just such a tight-knit family and loved each other very much.
Today, Drummond Avenue is as idyllic as it was when Leslie Prieur lived here, with no hint to the tragedy that took place. And for decades, there were no answers to this murder mystery that rocked this community.
Police are asking residents of this community to be on the alert to report anything suspicious that might lead to an arrest.
I remember clearly. I remember standing in front of that home. It troubled me that this woman's killer hadn't been found. But nearly a quarter century went by before we heard anything more about it.
What made you think you could find the killer?
We knew that there was DNA evidence, and that is huge for cold cases. We can use genealogy to try to identify a suspect.
By 2024, Detectives Augustin and Dupuy have spent a year and a half searching public genetic genealogy databases for any connections to that unknown male DNA found at the crime scene. Their most promising lead, a person in Romania who appears to be a distant relative of the killer.
So just doing basic Google searches, I was able to find out a lot of information. And so I started going through a lot of old historical information about their family line.
Grave sites, obituaries, marriage documents, census records. So it's a little bit of like history detective as well as regular detective work.
Then I came across the name Virgil Gligor, and that kind of clicked in my head because I remembered the name Gligor and I knew it was in the case files.
Gligor. Eugene Gligor is the name in the case file, Lauren Prieur's high school boyfriend. The two were high school sweethearts who met at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. They shared a tight-knit group of friends despite their 2-year age difference.
He's a little younger than me, but we just were attracted to each other and started dating.
So what was it about Eugene that
he was
drew you
just
to
he was
him?
Extremely attractive. He was very charismatic. He was a ladies' man, like he was, and all the girls loved him, but I got him. So we just became a thing.
What was he like during those years when you were together?
Popular, had a lot of friends.
He was very outgoing, very sharp individual, very witty. He always could carry a conversation, whether it be with our parents or anyone.
Eugene's mom was a consultant for the World Bank and then left that job to raise her boys, and his dad was a tenured professor at the University of Maryland. He had one brother.
He had a pretty
I would say relaxed, easygoing personality. His parents' house was kind of like the central hangout spot. So, you know, we used to spend a lot of time over there just kind of hanging out, doing what kids do.
Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 lived just about a 10-minute walk from the Prier house in an upscale community called Kenwood, known for its luxury homes and cherry blossoms. This trail runs between their two neighborhoods.
All you had to do was cross the street, walk down the bike path. My parents' house was like 3 houses up. That's it.
The friend group also often spent time at the Prier house.
Lauren's parents, her mom in particular, just welcomed everybody with open arms and made sure that they were fed. So I have a lot of very vivid memories of Eugene and Lauren and I at Lauren's parents' house.
My mom was just open door, totally took him in, and he could come to my parents' house when I wasn't even home yet. She loved him. She adored him. Dinners, barbecues, breakfasts. We went on vacation together with all of us. And so he was, at some point, part of our family.
So here you are. This is the night of prom.
Correct. That's me. That's Eugene. We had a great evening. We had fun. We stayed up all night, and it was a beautiful evening.
How serious was that relationship?
There were couples, and then there was Eugene and Lauren type of couple. They were on like a different level. It was Eugene and Lauren, not just Eugene. It wasn't hang out with Lauren. It was let's go hang out with Eugene and Lauren.
I mean, I loved him back then. I really did. He was gentle with me.
If like we got a scuffle with any guys from like a different school, and like there was any kind of altercation, he would be one of the last people you want to have your back.
Not really a fighter?
No, not a fighter at all, you know.
Eugene and Lauren dated throughout high school and then continued dating when Lauren went to college. After 5 years together, they broke up.
And why did you guys break up?
We were so young. We'd been together for too long. We just had a talk, and we both kind of agreed, like,
it's time to go our separate ways. Yeah. Did you guys keep in touch after that?
No.
About 2 years after their breakup, Lauren's mother was killed. Fast forward to 2024, when detectives determined that Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 is a first cousin twice removed from the genetic genealogy match in Romania. But for the police, that doesn't necessarily make him the killer.
Why would he do this? There wasn't much to make him a suspicious person. Nothing raised flags to say, hey, this guy's a killer.
But when detectives look back at the case file, something in there catches their eye.
And it just is one of those loose ends that was never tied up.
As detectives look into the history of Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒, a particular day stands out to them from over 2 decades ago, Leslie Prier's funeral.
Beautiful day outside, big church. Just the amount of people there, the amount of friends from high school that were there in support for Lauren. It was very well attended.
But not present among the throngs of people, Lauren's long-term ex-boyfriend, Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒.
I remember asking Lauren specifically, I was like, where is Eugene? And her saying to me that it was too much for him to handle. And I just remember being so upset, just being, are you kidding me? That's the excuse. That's the most selfish thing I've ever heard. It just rubbed me so wrong. I was like, why the hell is Eugene not here?
The detectives discover a traffic ticket 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 had received during that time and find out that a few days after the murder, at the same time as the funeral, he took a long, unplanned road trip to see a friend in Portland, Oregon.
Eugene decided he didn't want to go and instead took a cross-country trip all of a sudden to Portland, Oregon. It made no sense.
As part of their investigation, detectives would later interview Eugene's brother Andre and learn that he and his parents did attend the funeral. Andre also knew the Prier family.
Did you ever meet Lauren's parents, Leslie and Carl?
Yes.
Had you ever been to their house?
Yes. The only times I went to their house was in the context of pet sitting.
Okay. Do you remember the dog's name?
I do.
Boomer?
See that? Boomer. Yes.
Do you went to the memorial service?
Yes.
Okay. Did he mention that he was in town or out of town or anything like that?
He didn't mention anything because I didn't talk to him.
We know that he was out of town, and we thought that was a little bit peculiar because, you know, your ex-girlfriend's mother got murdered. That's very serious. I would definitely want to there, and obviously you felt compelled to go.
Yes.
So that's one of the main things that we're kind of confused about.
In the case file, detectives see that 9 months after Leslie's murder in January 2002, a tip had come in about Eugene, who had been living with his mother after his parents' divorce.
A lady that lived in the neighborhood where Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐒 lived said, I know that he used to date the victim's daughter, and he was getting in trouble in the neighborhood for noise complaints and just nuisance things where the police had come out there. And for some reason, he stuck out to her, and she said, I just want to let you guys know, look at this guy. It was just a hunch.
She didn't have any specific evidence to point to he's the killer, but she just got a weird feeling about him and wanted to call in and give his information.
So this neighbor calls it in, speaks with police. It's documented, but nothing happened.
No. They weren't able to locate him, and it just is one of those, loose ends that was never tied up.
Eugene was not tested, he wasn't asked for his DNA, he wasn't interviewed. It just sort of went away.
They didn't have probable cause that would connect him in any way to the crime. He was an old boyfriend, and there was no indication that there had been animosity between him and the mom.
Another person with a hunch about Eugene at the time, Lauren's father, Sandy.
He never liked him.
He never liked him?
Mm-mm. Even though I was dating him, he thought there was always something off. And then after she was gone, he said, do you think Eugene could be a part of this? I said, no. Like, what are you talking about?
But what remains unclear to investigators? Why would Eugene 𝐄𝐒 commit a crime like this? As for 𝐄𝐒's run-ins with the law, they don't see anything violent enough to suggest he'd be capable of murder.
Eugene did have some police interactions throughout the years. There were a couple of incident reports for thefts or burglaries where he was listed as a suspect, but he was never charged because either there wasn't enough evidence or the families decided not to go forward with anything. At some point, he had been charged with marijuana possession.
And he had 2 other contacts with the criminal justice system, but nothing that would have indicated he would have been involved in a violent crime.
So these findings didn't really paint a picture of a brutal murder.
No.
Not at all.
No.
But then, detectives stumble upon something worrying.
Okay, it was very scary, and I ended up calling the police.
Now that kind of changes things to where, okay, he might be capable of actually killing someone.
I ended up leaving that house that night. I did not stay there again, because I was afraid of him.
In the summer of 2024, 44-year-old Eugene 𝐄𝐒 has no idea that his life is under the microscope of detectives Augustin and Dupuy. What was Eugene 𝐄𝐒 doing with his life?
He had kept jobs and was just kind of living a under-the-radar life.
In the years after high school, he worked in the restaurant industry in New York, at one point as a maitre d' at a Michelin-starred restaurant, then moved back to D.C., working in business development.
He built a life for himself. Married twice, divorced twice.
He would host Super Bowl parties. He joined fantasy football leagues. Eugene's life was completely normal in all the tellings from the people who interacted with him.
I met Eugene 𝐄𝐒 in the summer of 2018. We both were working at a real estate technology startup. Eugene did business development and sales. He was a very bubbly, friendly, gregarious person, you know, a classic salesperson. Laughing, joking. He was a mentor and I learned a lot from him and I looked up to him and he was my go-to person to ask for advice.
Everyone in his life knew he struggled with alcohol. He was also really open about his journey to become sober and attending AA meetings.
He had internalized a lot of self-help best practices, so to speak. I remember him telling me, you know, having control over your thoughts and being able to see them as they come in and not just impulsively react to them is the first step toward being able to have control over your life.
But Detectives Augustine and Dupuy find something troubling in court records from 2021.
So this is a petition for a protective order, and this was from his second wife after they got divorced.
She describes in here an incident where Eugene came to collect his belongings without telling her. She writes, Eugene is an addict and has 2 guns. His behavior has been erratic and scary for a couple of years, off and on. I am scared to be in my home. He is unpredictable. Eugene repeatedly calls me a whore and yells into my face. He throws objects, punches walls, and I fear for my safety when he has these outbursts. I am seeking protection from this verbal abuse and escalation.
The petition for the protective order was ultimately denied by the court, which said there was no reasonable grounds to believe abuse as defined by the statute occurred. Detectives would later speak to that ex-wife.
He had moved out. He was supposed to let me know and get my approval before coming over, and he just came in. And it was very scary, and I ended up calling the police. And I ended up leaving that house that night. I did not stay there again because I was afraid of him. It was probably the only time that I was like, oh my God, like this is really scary.
So she was frightened.
Yeah.
She was afraid of something. She thought he might go after her. What stood out to you the most in this?
It just showed a completely different side of him that hadn't been exposed before. Once I saw that, okay, well, there is a propensity for violence, and now that kind of changes things to where, okay, he might be capable of actually killing someone.
After detectives find that petition for a protective order, signs are pointing in the direction Eugene Gliegor is their guy. But they need proof, especially since there are other males in the Gliegor line.
His brother did dog sit for them occasionally, so we knew his brother did have access to the house as well.
When you were dog sitting for the Preers, did you have a key to their house?
You know, I don't remember if Leslie gave me a key that I would give her back, or whether the key was hidden somewhere.
That DNA could match to another Gliegor, could have matched to Eugene's brother, it could have matched to somebody else in that family, and so they needed Eugene's DNA to confirm their suspicions.
We figured, okay, well, if Eugene's DNA doesn't come back a match, then Andre's our next step.
Now the challenge, collecting that DNA without Eugene suspecting.
And we got information that he was actually overseas and that he would be returning to the United States on a certain date, and we had the flight information.
When Eugene Gliegor arrived here at Dulles Airport in Virginia from an overseas trip in June of 2024, he may have thought he was just another anonymous traveler passing through. But it turns out investigators were watching and waiting.
They knew he was flying in. They knew he was going to be at Dulles. So he's coming off a plane, and bam, there's some detectives there.
They set up essentially a sting. They arranged for him to be pulled aside by customs for a special screening. They had arranged in the interview room several bottles of water, hoping that as he sat there, he would take one of them and they would have their DNA evidence.
And that is when Eugene unknowingly takes the bait, drinks a bottle of water, and then leaves it there on the table. And after he leaves the room, detectives come in, take that bottle of water, and there they have his DNA.
And then you get the call.
And then my world was once again upside down.
Hands up! Hands up! What's going on? What is this about?
Eugene Gliegor, finally confronted by police.
I'm sure you're wondering what this is all about.
I would really like to know.
Finally, 23 years after the murder of Leslie Preer, there's a DNA match to the crime scene. DNA taken from a water bottle Eugene Gliegor drank from and left here at Dulles Airport.
Normally, these things take a lot more time, but the biology lab was great in getting us a quick answer. And so we obtained the sample on a Sunday, and by Friday, we had a report saying that it was a match.
It's a pretty joyful moment to realize you've got your guy.
With Eugene's DNA confirmed, his brother Andre was officially eliminated as a suspect, as was Lauren's father Sandy, who had died still under that cloud of suspicion.
So at this point, we didn't want to alert Lauren and ask her any questions about him because we didn't want anybody to know that he was our suspect yet until we had him into custody. He was actually living in Washington, D.C. at the time. So officers were sitting outside of his apartment waiting to see if they saw him leave so they could arrest him outside. And he came outside to drink coffee and hang out on his stoop.
Hands up! Hands up! What's wrong with you? Hands on your back. Hands on your back. What's going on? What is this about?
So what was his reaction?
He was asking what it was about.
Can you tell me what this is about? Yeah, you have a warrant. For what?
He acted like he had no idea.
You got a warrant. Our boss is going to tell you everything about it, okay? That's all. Okay. He'll tell you. He'll give you a copy of it. So you didn't know anything about this warrant?
No.
Okay.
I think he was completely surprised. The police wanted to catch him off guard. I don't think he had any idea they were going to be there.
When did you call Lauren?
So I called her as soon as we knew he was in custody. I said, we have someone under arrest for your mom's murder. It's Eugene 𝐔𝐋𝐋.
And I almost fainted.
What goes through your mind?
I was in shock. I'm still in shock. Total shock. Just what? And then she goes, he's actually under arrest right now.
Have a seat right there.
You can take the cuffs off and just chain his ankle.
Yep.
Hi, Eugene.
Hello.
I am Detective Graston. This is Detective 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒. Hi there. From Montgomery County.
So when we talked to him,
I'm sure you're wondering what this is all about.
I would really like to know. This has been really hard.
he was inquisitive at first and answered some questions.
We were working on a case that came from Chevy Chase.
Mm-hmm.
And do you recall back in 2001, Leslie Prieur?
Yes, that she was murdered,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so that's the case that we are investigating. You went to BCC with her daughter at the time?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And what was your relationship with Lauren, the daughter?
We had dated.
Like, were you still in touch with Lauren when this stuff happened to her mom?
No, we had broken up a couple years before.
But once confronted with some evidence, he completely changed his attitude.
We actually have a sample of your DNA, and it was compared to the crime scene DNA, and it matched. So we know that you were there at the time when Leslie died.
But I never gave a sample of DNA.
That's correct. We obtained a sample from a discarded water bottle, and it was compared. So your DNA matches the crime scene DNA.
I don't know what to say. I have no recollection. I have no memory. I don't know what to say.
We tried to get any information from him, any explanation of how or why this could have happened. Only two people know what happened that day, you know, he and Leslie can't speak for herself.
We can tell you more about, you know, what we think happened.
I mean, what you think happened, I don't know. I can't verify. I don't know. I don't recall. I don't have any memory. I didn't do anything that you're talking about, so I don't know. And I don't feel like I don't know how to answer and go into. I don't want to incriminate myself with questions. You guys are professionals. I'm not. I don't know. I really do think I need an attorney.
Okay, that's fine. We're not going to ask you any more questions. There's no tears coming out of your face.
I'm very dry right now.
You're dry?
I'm very dry. I'm partially dehydrated. You can probably see my eyes are bloodshot red because I'm just tired and drained. I don't know what's going on. You want me to drink water so I can tear?
I don't want you to tear. I just don't want you to.
What are you trying to say?
I'm just trying to say that this seems a little put on.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
No.
He was putting on a bit of a show, being emotional and just acting like he doesn't understand how this could have happened.
In your eyes, it's guilty until proven innocent. I get it.
Well,
Honey, your DNA was in the crime scene. That's why, like...
But I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know.
What we're trying to figure out is how your blood was at the scene that day. Could it have been, you know, an interrupted burglary? Did something happen where you didn't expect anybody to be home?
I have no idea. I don't remember. I don't recall.
He just kept saying, I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember.
You keep saying you don't remember and you don't have any recollection.
Well,
but if somebody was not involved, it would be an adamant, I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I definitely didn't do it. Like, this is absolutely.
That's why we wanted to talk to you. I don't know why your blood is there also. I don't know.
Wow.
The only person that knows is Leslie, and she can't tell us.
He was very much wanting to be the victim in the situation, and it was very, very clear that we weren't buying it.
I'm trying to give you an opportunity to be a little bit forthcoming before we...
I mean, I feel a little bit trapped here, like...
Well, you're under arrest, so you should feel trapped.
Did you think this moment would come?
Yeah, I had hoped it would. I didn't think it was going to be him. I thought it was a random person. And when you figure out the relationship to the family, it makes it even worse because he betrayed any kind of like loyalty or relationship and trust that he had with the family.
I have been a television reporter for a very long time now, and this is one of the crimes, homicides, murders, that I never forgot about over the years. And so to ultimately hear on that day that they had made the arrest was, even for me, stunning.
This case remained open for 23 years.
Until now. Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy speaking this afternoon, moments after this man, 44-year-old Eugene Gliegor, now charged with first-degree murder.
Like this copacetic Zen person who had been through AA and had all this advice and had taught me a lot, murdered someone?
I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, it just, I think, brings a sense of confusion and betrayal.
When you guys were together, did you ever feel unsafe at all around him?
Never.
At no point. And you were together for a number of years.
Yeah.
But you never felt as though you were in any danger.
Never. Never. Not once.
It was very violent.
It's so not what I ever knew of Eugene.
You take a breath, and then you gear up for helping to prepare for trial. And that's the next step, because we have him in custody, but we have to convince 12 people on a jury that he is the murderer.
Investigators know Eugene Gliegor is not going down without a fight.
He was adamant that he was fighting it and that he was gonna, be out in a few months and everything was gonna be fine.
But even before they get to trial, there's an unexpected twist.
I just could not believe it. I was completely gobsmacked.
With Eugene Gliegor in custody, the state starts preparing its case. This is when they track down the people from his past who were closest to him, starting with his ex-wives.
Okay. He has 2 ex-wives, and both of them kind of reiterated that he was a completely different person when he would drink.
When we met, I had no experience with addiction in my life, and so I didn't recognize what it was. But within about 2 months, I was like, something's wrong. But he was an alcoholic, and he would drink and then pass out. And it was just a mess, and it was really very, very sad.
And that they oftentimes feared for his own safety when he would drink because he would be very reckless.
Was he like a danger to himself, like saying he would harm himself, or just being impulsive, going out, drinking and driving, or what kind of stuff?
Second?
The latter.
Okay.
He definitely started taking 2 different directions, where my crutch was making celery juice and his was hiding a bottle under, kitchen counter while working kind of thing. But he did a really good job of, I guess, Jekyll and hiding it.
It got to a point with both of them that they ended up getting divorced because of his substance abuse issues.
Detectives then interview Eugene's brother, Andre, who is shocked.
Sure, it's very hard. And we understand
Detectives learned that Andre feared his brother may not only steal from him, but also interfere with his life.
Was there anything else that made you fearful of him?
I was concerned or scared that he was going to sort of sabotage my life.
According to detectives, Andre was living in a townhouse owned by their mother. And with Eugene's recent separation in 2021, Andre feared Eugene might do something to get him kicked out.
He was sort of posturing and maneuvering to come after my living situation, that he wanted me to get kicked out of where I live. So that's why I felt threatened by him. And I just had a gut feeling that perhaps he could be dangerous.
Andre would tell police that he was so unsettled about his brother Eugene, he actually reached out to Lauren Prier.
As I reached out to somebody who I thought knew him, his character, not recent character, but from the past, I wanted to sort of confirm or deny my gut. And so that's why I messaged Lauren. I didn't really get an answer.
Do you remember what exactly you wrote to her?
I just basically said, I feel like my brother dislikes me. Some days I'm scared of him. Should I trust my instinct or am I going crazy?
The picture that was painted for us was that he tended to be manipulative in his relationships, according to these people, and he would always try to make himself the victim and at the expense of other people.
In my mind, he would put one persona out there, but behind closed doors, he was a different person.
The case against him, I think, was rock solid. He did this crime. That was not going to ever be the issue. The issue was going to be, is it first-degree, second-degree manslaughter?
Then, with the trial approaching, there's a surprising announcement. 𝐃𝐿GH𝐒 agrees to plead guilty to second-degree murder.
Were you both surprised that he pled guilty?
I was. Now he's saying that he's responsible for it and that he's pleading guilty because he is, in fact, guilty.
What was your reaction to that?
Thank God.
You didn't want to go to trial?
No. That would have been hell.
Calling criminal case C-15-Sierra-24870, State of Maryland versus Eugene Theodore 𝐃𝐿GH𝐒.
So are you pleading guilty here today freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you pleading guilty because you do believe that you are guilty of second-degree murder?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did he look at you?
No, nothing. He didn't look at anybody, but he knew. I know he saw us.
Did he seem remorseful at all?
Nothing. He sat there and just basically stared down.
Based on all of this evidence, what do you think happened to Leslie that morning when she was killed?
I think that Eugene was breaking into the house thinking no one was home, and he encountered Leslie. And knowing that she would recognize him and he would get in trouble, I think that he just panicked and only thought about himself and made a selfish decision to kill Leslie in the heat of the moment just so he could get away.
Knowing your mom so well, what do you think her reaction was when she saw Eugene?
I think she was probably in shock, and I think she was like, Lauren's not here. What's going on? And then I think he got scared because he was in the house and she saw his face and knew exactly who he was. And then he freaked out and she ran for her life. He took her into the shower thinking that the DNA was going to be gone.
But it wasn't.
Not on her fingernails. And then there was blood in the house. It was horrifying. It's terrifying. It's haunting.
Your ex-boyfriend killed your mother.
Yes. Literally. And the fact that it's someone I knew, that I dated, went to prom with, it's insane. And then he almost got away with it. He almost got away with it.
I think the burning question right now that everyone wants to know is why? Like, why did it have to result in murder?
Do you think you'll get answers from him in the sentencing?
If he wants to talk.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, make no mistake about it. Today is a day of reckoning for this defendant who for 23 years hid in plain sight.
And just 2 weeks ago, what Eugene 𝐃𝐿GH𝐒 had to say in court.
At this time, Mr. 𝐃𝐿GH𝐒, you do have the absolute right to address the court before I sentence you in this matter. If there is anything that you would like to say to the court, now is your opportunity to do so.
Your Honor, yes, I would.
The day has finally come for Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 to be sentenced after pleading guilty to murdering Leslie Prieur. But for those who knew her, there are still so many unanswered questions.
I want to know why you were so violent to this woman. What snapped in you?
Many family members are present today here in the courtroom to honor Leslie's memory. They're also here to finally see justice done after 24 years.
Before 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 is sentenced, Lauren gets the opportunity to speak directly to him.
Why would you kill my mom? She was the sweetest soul on the planet. She never judged anyone. You're a monster of wolf in sheep's clothing.
All right, well, thank you very much. Mr. 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒, if there's anything that you would like to say to the court, now is your opportunity to do so.
Your Honor, I want to express my deepest regret, shame, and remorse for the devastating tragedy that I caused.
And to help back up that remorse, 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒's defense submitted a pre-sentencing memorandum that included these photos of him smiling alongside Lauren, saying after their breakup, there was no animosity between them, and he only had positive memories of Leslie Prieur.
I'm sorry it's taken me this long to take full responsibility. I'm grateful the time has come. I'm relieved the secret is over. I had many blackouts leading up to the evening of May 1st and the morning of May 2nd, 2001, but none that resulted in the most regretful and devastating event of my life.
Although in court, 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 said that most of the day was a blur, a memorandum filed by prosecutors prior to the sentencing quoted a more specific account from 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒, saying on May 1st, 2001, Mr. 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 remembered drinking both shots and mixed drinks. He stated that he vaguely remembered driving to work and stopping off at the Prieur house around 9:30 a.m. on May 2nd, 2001. He recalled a vague memory of going into the house and he and Mrs. Prieur having some sort of physical altercation. He does not recall placing her in the shower or trying to clean up the crime scene.
To Lauren and Leslie's family, I'm so sorry for causing you so much misery and hardship.
After Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒's statement, the judge sentenced him to 22 years in prison with 5 years of supervised probation.
Our Maryland Bureau Chief Brad Bell is joining us now live first tonight, and he's been covering this case since we learned that Leslie Prieur's murderer was identified.
Yeah, a lot of emotions at play in the courtroom. The family finally today able to stand around this picture and take a family portrait and say they are thankful for some amazing detective work.
This is a history-making case. I want to thank the family. There's no closure in these cases, but the sentence given by the judge was appropriate.
You heard him speak today. What do you think? John says no remorse.
I think it's the Eugene show in his mind, and I think it's the same thing over and over. I don't believe anything he says.
I can't believe it's over. It's been so long. Almost 25 years. I'm 48 years old. I thought I was going to die without knowing. And it's over. It's over. We did it. Thank God.
We all had these questions of who did it for years, and now we finally have an answer and some kind of idea to allow us to carry on with our lives.
With 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 now behind bars, Lauren Prieur finally has some answers, but they're answers that came too late for her father, Sandy.
How do you process that, knowing that he passed a few years ago and it was so close to seeing this day?
I have pictures of him in the guest bedroom, and I talked to them, and I said, I wish you had been here. I said, Daddy, thank you for being such a wonderful father, and I'm so sorry that you didn't get to see justice, but you're getting justice.
She seemed like a wonderful, wonderful mom.
She was smart. She was beautiful. She's an incredible human being. Yeah, she was my angel.
We should point out tonight that Eugene 𝐄𝐏𝐒 could be eligible for parole after serving just half of the 22 years. He's already filed a motion asking for the court to reconsider his sentence.
David, as for Lauren Prieur, she tells us there are no words to express her gratitude to those 2 cold case detectives who never gave up on bringing her mother's killer to justice. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.